What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a longtime assistant / associate head coach, because he did spend a lot of time as an associate head coach at a few places, a great friend, and a Philadelphia, PA native, Jeff Battle. Now, Jeff, after finishing college, he actually went and got his master's degree. He was a GA, a graduate assistant at University of Delaware. From there, he went on to be a high school coach for a couple of years at Cesar Rodney in Delaware. And then from there, he actually went on to Dale State, started his coaching career at Delaware State University. And then he actually went to Loyola for a year before heading to Xavier University. All those years with Skip Prosser at Loyola and then on to Xavier. And then actually went to Wake Forest from 2001 to 2014 for 13 years, spending time with Skip Prosser, Dino Gaudio, and Jeff Bzdelic. And then after a year off, he went to Providence, where he's presently at, getting ready, just finished up his 5th season, heading to the 6th season. Like I said, a good friend of mine, somebody you in this business is a true professional, has done it the right way all the way through his career. I want to say welcome to the show, Jeff.
Appreciate it, Lamar, man. Appreciate you having me. Glad to be here. Looking forward to the conversation. And as always, man, I appreciate your friendship and support and bringing this Unmasked to the light today. And not only for me, but for all the past coaches that have been on. So kudos to you for doing that, but I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So you know what, Jeff, let's jump right into it. Let's get unmasked. We all know, man, this business, man, it's there's no direction. You jump right in, and you've been in it for, 30 years plus. And so when you first come in as a young coach, you coming from the high school side, I did the same thing. So you don't know what to expect, as a college coach. And so you kind of seen guys who recruited your players. Let me follow what they did and try to figure out. And no one else, seems like they don't want to give you the answers to the test before you get there. So you just got to figure it out on your own. So, like I said, there's no handbook to being a college coach. Tell me about your first day, week, month after things are done with human resources, especially when no one gives you direction.
Well, you're right, man. It's it's crazy right out of the gate. And, I came from high school, from Cesar Rodney High School at the Delaware State, and hadn't recruited. But fortunately, I had been around the recruiting when I was a GA at the University of Delaware, with Larry Davis, Dennis Felton, and Coach Steinwettle. I kind of sat in on all their meetings, kind of was like a little, thing on the wall. And when they would have their recruiting meetings and discussions, I would kind of sit in there. And even though I wasn't quote unquote recruiting, but I was involved in the meetings and stuff like that. So that kind of helped me a little bit. But when I first got to Delaware State, man, and I was like, whoa, and like you said, something about a manual. My biggest fear, Mark, was that freaking coaching test. Like, I was like, okay, now I know I got to pass this thing to go on the road, but I was nervous because I didn't know, some of my boys was like, nah, JB, it's cool. It's open book, I said, but I still got to pass this joint to get on the road. So I was more nervous about that than I was anything, to be honest with you. But, once I got that out the way, my first couple of days was all just about pretty much organizational stuff. Finding out who are people on campus that I needed to reach out to. Most importantly, who do I need to contact in terms of travel recruiting? So all these things were going through my mind in those first few days to kind of get organized. Those that know me, I'm an organized kind of freak. I got to have everything, all my things lined up and everything's got to be perfect. So, because I recruit a certain way. So those are my concerns early on when I first got into it. And then, once I settled in with that, the biggest thing for me, Lamar, was the players, trying to reach out to know them so they get to know who I am, what they're about, let them know I was going to be there for them, that kind of thing, because I'm new on the job. So that's really important. I think, establishing that relationship coming in with your players, first and foremost, and then you kind of work your way from there on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome, man. And I mean, you talked about the recruiting test. People don't realize the book, we don't even know. I mean, they just keep adding stuff to the book every year. And when you I got in 17, 18 years ago, it was 40 questions, 80 minutes. You still had to get 80% of the questions right. And now it's 30 questions, 60 minutes, and you still got to get 80% of the questions right. And no matter how much you know things on the test and know the rules, you always go in with that anxiety, like, man, I can't fail this test. And, so I sympathize with you on that, about that test, man.
Nah, and what they do, man, they try to trick you. They word things differently. It's almost like they're trying to get you as opposed to find out what you really know. So I tell guys all the time, first time guys, like, yo, man, just be ready for it. They're going to try to trick you. Watch how they word stuff. But, at the end of the day, you got to get through it. So it's just one of those things you got to deal with.
So true.
Fortunately, I've been able to pass for 30 straight years. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. We all know that recruiting, man, is the lifeline of college athletics in general. You got to recruit not only just really good players, but really good people. You got to that's determines your success a lot of times. Usually good people, good players, good people equates to wins. You can have a good player but a bad attitude, or bad player, bad attitude, and it doesn't work out for you. But what's your best and worst, or you can say greatest, or best and worst recruiting story?
Wow. Best or worst? That's a pretty good question. So I would say my best would be probably, James Posey. When I was at Xavier, I remember recruiting him. And the thing I remember about that, Lamar, was it got down to the point where I had to see him, but I could only see him play in a workout in practice, his practice. But the thing was, Coach Prosser never wanted me to miss our practice. But the only time I could see him, I would have to miss practice to go see him. So I was begging Coach, man, I got to go see this kid today. He's working out at 3. Coach, I got to go. He's like, JB, nah, man, I need your practice. I said, Coach, I got to go, man. I have to go. I got to see this kid. Because I didn't like missing practice either. But when I was recruiting here and I knew I had to see this dude to try to make this thing work, and nobody else on our staff had seen him, I had to make it happen. So I kind of, fudged Coach. He let me go. I never forget it. Went there, flew into Cleveland, and, go watch him work out. And when I come out of the workout, Lamar, it must be 20-some inches of snow outside. And when I went in, it was sunny. So I come out, and I'm like, whoa. So my first thing is, am I going to be able to get back? Coach already upset with me for missing practice. Now, if I miss practice tomorrow, it might be a wrap, unless this dude's a pro. So workout went great. Finally, I got on the flight, got back that night, which worked out good. And he was a good player, obviously. So when I went in the next day, Coach goes, what's up? I go, Coach, I love this kid. He goes, well, he better be good because you missed practice. And, the moral of the story was I said, Coach, and Coach never saw him play ever. He never saw James Posey play. And so he went on my word. So I was just like, well, this better work. I'm missing practice, and I'm selling him on a dude he hasn't seen. So it worked out well, obviously. But that, I'll never forget that, because I always think back, if I hadn't have talked Coach into letting me go, I probably would never have saw him. And so the fact that I did that, there was something about it. And he ended up, obviously the rest was history, he ended up being, lottery pick, NBA guy. But he's a guy that I always talk about, because not only that story, but we have a special relationship because he was the first one to invite me to the green room when he got drafted. And so I've always had a special place for him. You know, we're still tight today. We talk, stay in touch with each other's lives and stuff like that. So technically he was the first pro that I, kind of recruited and coached and that kind of thing. So I'll never forget that recruiting story there. So, that's a good one. Jeff Teague, recruited him. I'll never forget him because you know how these visits go. You bring these kids in, you want them to have a great visit. You try to find out what they like to eat. You're trying to figure out all that stuff to make the visit work. Called his dad up, Sean, great guy. I said, Sean, I'm trying to make this thing happen this weekend with Jeff. Now, what types of stuff does he like to eat? What does he like to do? He said, Coach, he's a simple dude, man. He just get my man a burger and some fries. He's good. I said, all right, cool. I can do that. Get him on campus. We do our deal. He said, all he really want to do is see where y'all play anyway. He just not into all the other stuff. Cool, no problem. I can work with that. We get him on. We do the deal, basic dinner, burger, stuff like that. Lamar, the kid might have said 10 words the whole weekend. I'm like, this ain't good. Coach Bryce is like, we dropped him off the airport. He said, JB, I don't know, man. He goes, this kid, you're not feeling us. You're not feeling us. I said, Coach, let me find out what's up, man. He's a quiet kid. I don't know. Called his dad that night. Hey, Sean, man, just want to follow up on the visit. It was good, but, Jeff really didn't say much. He wasn't vibing and stuff with the guys. I'm like, I got to have this dude, Coach. I got to have him, Sean. He's like, Coach, he loved it. Absolutely loved it. I said, wow, okay. All right, cool. So you know how you freak out all the time. I'm sitting there freaking out. I'm sweating. Dad said, no, he loved it. Coach, he loves it. Loves you guys. Loved everything about it. You're going to get some good news soon. Don't worry about it. Boom, boom, boom. So those two recruiting scenarios right there, they always stick in my mind, not because both of them end up being, pros again, but just the way the recruiting process went. We all have stories about how that goes, but there's no exact science to it. Like I always say, you just never know.
So those are two great recruiting stories, two very, very good players. Had great NBA careers as well. So, you've been in a long time. We talked about it, and what did you have to give up achieving your current level of success?
Well, obviously family. You give up quality time with your family, your loved ones. We don't get to go to reunions, family reunions and stuff like that, weddings, all the stuff that you get asked to do during the year. The thing that I regret the most that I gave up was, you go 100 miles an hour recruiting, you're on the road. And I remember when I was in Cincinnati, my son was small and, he was still, crawling around the floor and stuff like that. My wife was there with him. And I was getting ready to go on a recruiting trip. And, I kissed my wife goodbye, hugged my son, went recruiting for a few days. And I never forget, man, I came back from the trip, Amar, and we were just sitting there chilling at night, watching TV, sitting on the couch. All of a sudden, I heard my son say something, crawled up and he said something. My wife said, did he just say something? I said that to my wife. She goes, yeah, Jeff, he talks now. Like, I missed that.
Right.
Because I'm so wrapped up recruiting and doing all my thing, I didn't even realize that my son could talk. He started talking. I'll never forget that. So since then, I'm always like, yo, man, my family's going to come first. My son, whenever I could be there for him, I'm there. So, but you give up those things, you don't even realize it, stuff like that. So, those are the things that I think about the most. You just give up, the family stuff and friends and just stuff that normal people, that can do on a daily basis.
So true, man. So true. Especially when, you always talk, people always say, man, I'm a family person. And then, so these young guys, young people don't understand, like, yeah, it's great, but like, man, we in this business and it's 355, 360 days, 12, 15-hour days. I mean, so it's always on the go. You don't have a lot of downtime. And and you got to cherish. You cherish the moments that you do get to spend with them. But like you said, like that, those are important times that you don't want to miss. And unfortunately, that's part of the business that happens.
And you appreciate that more as you get older. Like you said, when you're young, when we were young, we just getting in, you trying to make your mark per se, you running and ripping, you trying to be, Joe recruiter and Joe coach. And, but you're right. You lose perspective on what's really, really important.
This is you've been in it a while, and I laugh because every time I ask this question, it's like, a lot of times it's like, I really don't have this or that, but what was your, and I'll say this first, you can have your best scouting report and have one of your worst losses. You can have your, worst scout report, things you missed and you got to win. It still comes down to players and how they play. But do you have anything that stands out what was your best and worst scouting report?
Well, I'll start with the worst first. Okay. So the first one I did with Coach Prosser was at Loyola. And I don't want to say I was clueless, but I didn't really know what all it had to entail. So my thing was to go overboard as opposed to just being brief. Big mistake. You're out there going over stuff with the team. You got papers everywhere. Papers are fumbling. You got this play, that play. You're like, okay, all right, then they run this after this. Here's their timeout specials. Meanwhile, everybody's looking at you. You're like, what am I doing here? Da, 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 da. So I was overwhelmed, to be honest with you. And so I learned from that, though, even presenting it to the team, like the day of the game before, you have to be at the board. You got to tell them what they're going to do. Whoever had the scout, I had the scout. And I'm going over each player, Lamar Barrett, you can't let him go right. If he does this, he's going to spin back this way. Oh, yeah, he can shoot the three, keep him in front. And I'm saying to myself, damn, if I got to do all that to stop a dude, we in trouble. So I was just putting so much stuff up there. I had so much going on. Fortunately, we won the game. But I went back to the crib that night, and I'm like, I got to simplify this thing here. I said, the kids was probably like, Coach B was out of his mind. So ever since then, you get better as you do it, as you know. So, but I always remember that first one because I was just like, whoa. So, unfortunately, I got it under control. So, my best scout happened to be, for me, I've had a lot, during my time, but a lot of great wins, a lot of scouts that I were a part of. I still say we do the scout, but the players play the game. But, this year here, we played Texas at home, and I got a lot of respect for Shaka, great coach, does a lot of stuff, and I had that scout, and I'm watching film, and I just had so much respect for them, what they were doing, and and all that kind of thing. But we were coming off a bad loss. Florida just spanked us, at the Barclays. So our morale was down. We were starting to doubt ourselves. People were, saying we're not this, we're not that. So it was a big game for us, the Texas game. The game was sold out. And so I felt like responsibility to get our crew back on the right track. So there was a lot of inward pressure for me that I put on myself on this scout. And I never forget, we come out for warm-ups. You come out before the game. I had already put the stuff on the board. And this is the first time I saw them live because I saw them on film, obviously. I come out there, Lamar, they had like 6 or 7 dudes, just like 6'9" or bigger. I'm looking at them in the layup lines. They like playing like on a Nerf hoop. They're dunking and backwards and dunking. I'm sitting there like, whoa. I went back in the locker room. I saw one of our GAs. I said, whoa, we might be in trouble tonight. Them dudes are huge. I couldn't even tell how big they were on tape. They were so big and so athletic. Man, we hooped that night. We hooped. The place was on fire. We got it done. We were locked into what we needed to do with the report. And you do a good job when the game's over and you come in the locker room and the players come up to you and say, man, good scout, coach, good job. So that was probably my best one. That was because of the game, the respect I had for Shaka, and also the magnitude of the game.
Awesome. Jeff, what's the biggest challenge you have experienced since you've been in college coaching?
The biggest challenge. Just really keeping up with the recruiting landscape. You know, it changes all the time. Um, you know, when I first got in, it was more little simplistic. You know, you dealt with, you know, maybe the kid, mom, high school coach, maybe, and it was a little bit more, you know, like I said, you know, not as complicated. And as we go on, as you know, there's more people involved. There's more uh, people to talk to, people to deal with. That's been a big challenge for me moving forward. Just you know, keeping up with the landscape. And you know, it's what you do. It's what we do. You know, we do it because we have to do it. And you know, I would say that's a big challenge for me. And the other thing is the technology thing that's going on now with all the, you know, the analytics and you know, the computers, you know, the stuff we're doing now. I mean, I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. And so I'm constantly trying to keep up with the newness of everything because I know it's not going to go away. And I'm trying to learn. I'm still trying to learn. You know, I've been in it a while, but I'm still continuing to learn from that aspect. So from a technology standpoint, that's a challenge, but that's something that I'm really trying to get better at that.
I mean, that's in what that's all about evolution. That's how the game has changed, like you said.
Yeah.
It's about,
Yep.
you know, changing with the times.
Yes.
Do you've been at, like, and I've always looked at you and said, you know, I look at you. You haven't been a head coach on this level, but I still look at you in that light just because of the success you've had and the things you've done. Some good people you've been with, but like, do you ever find there are things about you that people misunderstand, or what are they?
I wouldn't say understand. Um, a lot of people, I get asked that question a lot about, you know, why haven't I been a head coach? And is that something I aspire to? And then when I was younger, I was, you know, kind of chasing that. And, you know, I had some personal things happen to my wife. I lost my wife, you know, 12 years ago. And when that happened, Lamar, it kind of took me in another path. You know, I wasn't, you know, if it happened, it happened, but I wasn't, you know, chasing it. It wasn't the end all. And, you know, I'm not a self-promoter. You know, I'm not, you know, I'm not really comfortable talking about myself, to be honest with you. And, you know, so I'm not, I never had an agent, none of that stuff in terms of promoting me to be a head coach. And so, you know, those are things that, you know, but I don't trip off of it. I'm happy. And once I realize who I am and what I'm doing and how I connect with people, that's really the most important thing for me. Like, if I'm not going to be a head coach, I want to be a pro assistant coach. So I want to be a pro at what I do. And so if I can do that, I'm good. And so I try to be a mentor now. It's funny because Coach Cooley, he jokes with me all the time. He says, he calls me the godfather of assistant coaches. He said, guys always reach out to you for advice and they want to know this, they want to know that. And to me, that's what it's about. And so as long as you're happy from within, you know, you're comfortable where you're at, you know, so I always say it's who you're with, it's not where you're at. That's all you can do.
That's a great gem right there. Like, people should listen to that. Young coaches who listening to this, or even I mean, players, like, just that what you said alone. I mean, that's just some knowledge that can be gained from that. You know, we all educators in this business. You're always teaching. I mean, you're a coach, and it's all about life lessons. Jeff, I say this all the time. You know, when parents drop their kids off to campus, you know, like, it's our job to now, you know, their parents did a great job of rearing them. I never say raise cattle. You raise cattle. You don't raise children. You rear them. And so and now you drop them off 17, 18, 19 years old. It's our responsibility for the next 4 or 5 years to kind of groom them. You're teaching them how to be a man now. So these are the most important years of their life, those 4 or 5 years, because once they get out in the real world, whether they go to the NBA, they got a corporate America job, whatever they want to do, they still got to live. And so my thing is, what do you try to teach your players besides just basketball?
Well, I try to teach life lessons, to be honest with you, because I think that's one of the things that's great about our sport, or any sport, is it teaches young men lessons, real life lessons. You know, if you're late for a workout, you're late for practice, you know, I tell them, hey, yo, in the real world, you come rolling in 5-10 minutes late, you fired. You done. Oh, coach, no, you done. You know, so just trying to teach them things like that, how to present themselves, how to carry themselves. You know, every time we play, when we're on TV, you're like being interviewed. Like when you do post-game interviews and you're talking to the guy after the game, that's a potential interview for you. So how you look them in the eye, how you talk. You know, I always have our guys. We have our guys. You know, when we play a game, they go up and introduce themselves to the media, the guys that are doing the game, because you just never know. You know, so just trying to teach them little things like that that can carry over to the real world. And so, you know, and I have a lot of sayings that I have with all the players that I've coached. They get tired of hearing them. You know, my big thing is simplify your life. That's coach.
Make sure you save that. Make sure you say that, Jeff, because that question is coming as well.
Simplify your life, man. Okay, we'll get into that, but you know, but the biggest thing is those life lessons, though, Lamar. Seriously, and just they might not want to hear it, you know, but at the end of the day, we're doing right by them. And you know, fortunately, I work with a coach, Coach Cooley, who's big on that, developing men, and you know, so that's something that we consistently do with our guys.
That's good stuff to hear. You've been coaching, and you've had, you know, ton of wins, NCAA appearances. You've had some really good players. You talked about Posey. You talked about Teague. Like, what are your best and worst memories in coaching?
Well, as coaches, we're going to equate this to wins. We're going to equate it to wins and losses, because that's kind of what we do, right? So my biggest one would be probably, I want to say, when I was at Xavier, I think it was, I can't remember the exact, it might have been 96 or not, or whatever. I can't remember. I might be a year or two off, but we played Cincinnati, which was a big rival game, just so you know. Xavier and Cincinnati, big rival game. And so a lot of trash talk going into the game leading up. They were number one in the country at the time. We roll into their place. I think it was the Shoemaker Center at the time. Place was on fire. I mean, one of the best atmospheres I've ever been a part of. And the game goes back and forth. Game is tied. We have the ball with, I want to say, 5 seconds left. We call timeout. So this is my first experience at like a big time win. You know what I mean? Through the years, I've had a lot, you know, at Wake and here at Providence, whatever. But this is my first experience like, whoa. So timeout, Coach Prosser gets the board, calls a play. Now I'm amped right now. I feel like I'm hooping. I'm like nervous. I don't even know what Coach Prosser called. I wasn't even like looking in the huddle. But we had a guy, Lenny Brown, good player for us, really good player. And when we broke the huddle, I literally sprinted out to the court, grabbed Lenny, and he'll tell you to this day, I said, Lenny, go get the ball. He was like, when we run, I said, go get the ball. Because I knew he had a history of making big shots. You know what I mean? He was tough. He wasn't afraid of the moment. And if I'm going down, I was going to go down with my man. So I don't know if I like disregarded what coach told him, but I wanted him to have the ball. Gets the ball out of bounds on the side. He runs and gets it, side OB. He goes and gets it. We kind of go 1-4. He goes like waves the guys away, like 1-4 flat. Clock's ticking down, 3, 2. He crosses them up, top of the key, pull up in the lane, bottom at the buzzer. Place went from being on fire to quiet. You could hear a pin drop in there. And everybody was just running off. And I never forget the announcer. He goes, you know, Xavier wins the game. He goes, you know, Cincinnati goes down. They're number 1 in the country, but they number 2 in the city. And I just never forgot that. Big time game. So that was like my first experience of just like having chills regarding a game. So that was my first big win. So that was probably my most, my special one there that I cherished probably. My worst one now, and the flipping the switch, 2009, I want to say it was, we had a terrific team. I mean, we had 4 pros. We had Jeff Teague, we had Ishmael Smith, we had Al-Farouq Aminu, and we had James Johnson. All of them are still playing in the NBA. And we were rolling that year. Coach Gaudio was the coach. And we go into the NCAA tournament. I think we were like a 4 seed. And they're like a 13. And they just spanked us. First round of the NCAA tournament. And that team, Lamar, that team was a Final Four type team. I mean, top to bottom, no doubt in my mind. And I'll never forget that game as long as I live, because no disrespect to Cleveland State. I think they were 13. They had Norris Cole on that team who played with the Miami Heat. But we were really, really good. And it just goes to show you, like an NCAA tournament, you don't come to play one night, you're done. And so just the feeling I had after that game, it was the exact opposite of that Cincinnati game. Like, man, oh man, what could have been. And those guys were never together again because they all left to go to the league after that. So it wasn't like you could go do the same thing next year with the same crew. So that hurt, man. That hurt.
Yeah, I feel that one. I can feel that one myself. What was the most, from a basketball standpoint, like what was the most stressful situation that you have faced?
Most stressful situation that I've faced since I've been in coaching was trying to coach and deal with the loss of my wife, to be honest with you. Yeah. When that happened, I mean, I was stressed. I didn't know if I could continue to do what I do. Fortunately, I had a lot of support, a lot of my friends. And that's why I always say too, coaching, man, we're all competitive, against each other, assistants and coaches, what we do. But when it comes to real life stuff, that's when you really find out, who your boys are. Forget all the competition. At the end of the day, we're friends and we're legitimate people who have problems. And the amount of people who reached out to me when I lost my wife, I was just blown away. It's people that I didn't even know knew me was reaching out and supporting me with calls and letters. And that meant a lot. So I never forgot that. But that was a stressful situation in my life. Just how to deal with that, the emptiness, trying to face and deal with our players. And I knew I wasn't there all the way like I usually am with my energy and my enthusiasm. So I stressed out about that for a while, and was fortunate enough to get back on my feet and, through a lot of support, like I said, and got through that time. But that was a real stressful time, not only in my life, but also in my coaching career.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, that, like you said, it's always good to have people that you didn't even know was there, or people that helped you through that situation. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
What is the strangest, you've been around, what is the strangest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court?
Outside of the basketball court. Got me thinking on this one. Okay. Well, how about if I start outside of the basketball court and they brought it to the court? How's that?
You can do that as well.
So we have a shoot around. You know how if you have a game, you have a game on class day, when the classes are in session, you might have to have your walkthrough or your shoot around, on campus the day of the game. So obviously they got class that day. So you try to schedule it around the classes. We got 3 o'clock walkthrough, shoot around at the practice gym, whatever. So we have one, and I'm not going to say where we're at because it'll give away who the kid is, and I don't want to embarrass them, but they'll know, trust me. Kid shows up for the shoot around and walkthrough with a robe on. Okay? So I see him as the assistant. Now the head coach ain't up on the floor yet. I see my man walk in with the robe on. So I go to him, I go, yo, what are you doing? Now, the answer he gave me, I had to laugh, even though I was so ticked off at the kid. He said, Coach B, y'all told us don't be late for class and don't miss class. Well, I was running late this morning and I ain't had time to shower and change. So I just rolled to class in my robe and I just came right to shoot around. I said, I didn't really know how to respond at first, Mark says. I didn't know whether to just choke him, but I said, I just put my arm around him. I said, yo, man, look here. Look, let me just share something with you. I said, Coach is going to be up here in about 5 minutes. He better not see you looking like this. What am I supposed to do? I said, you got shoes in the locker room? You got stuff to change into? Yeah, but I ain't want to be late. You got time. Go down, put on your shoes, put on your sneaks, take the robe off, put on your practice top, and come back up. Nobody's going to know this went down except me and you. Okay? I got you, Coach. I got you. But I appreciate the fact that he went to class. He was on time. But that was pretty strange right there. That was another level. So here's what it is.
Definitely another level. And I couldn't. I had tears in my eyes.
I mean, what do I didn't want to question the kid because he was honest, he was transparent, but hey, there you go.
You've worked, man, for some terrific people. I just looked, you talking about, Skip Prosser, you worked with him for a long time. Rest in peace to him. And Ed Cooley, man, one of the best. People don't realize how great of a person he is. I forget the basketball coach, how great of a person he is. And I know, like you said before, if it was meant for you to be a head coach, yeah, or if it was, any of that stuff, or being an assistant, have you, if you had a chance, and Ed is great, so it's kind of hard to ask this question because you've been in it, but, and I'm going to throw it on NBA wise. I'm not even going to say because that's something, if you had a chance to work for anyone, who would that be? AD or even head coach? I'm going to say AD as far as tomorrow you got a head coaching job and there's an AD or somebody you may know, or for NBA assistant job. Is there anybody in particular?
So could it be an NBA coach that I would want to work for, or okay. I'll start with AD. Our guy, Bob Driscoll, who we have here at PC, is terrific. Just the time that he takes from a personal standpoint out of his day to check on you as a person. That's something that's really unique. And, I really appreciate that because he does a lot of things out of the box that he doesn't really have to do, that aren't in the quote job description. And so from a personal standpoint, I appreciate him and all he's done for me. In terms of the coach that I would enjoy working with or for, a guy that I have always followed and have the utmost respect for is Brad Stevens. I followed Brad Stevens. Obviously, I met him when he was at Butler, and just followed his path and his mind. I love his demeanor. I love how he relates to his players, the presence that he has, and he's never rattled. And he's also a great tactician, X and O guy. So he's a guy that I always felt like if I could just be around him a little bit and soak up some of his basketball knowledge, that would be huge for me. That's somebody that like I said before, that I would really enjoy spending time with, working for, that kind of thing as well.
And you know what? And that's a good answer because that name just came up from everybody, not just you, but everybody. Biggest accomplishment you have experienced since you've become a college coach or you've been in college coaching?
Biggest success? I'm sorry?
Biggest accomplishment. Yeah, biggest accomplishment.
I would say longevity. I mean, not a lot of people last in the business this long. And even if you think back to what I did when I was at Wake, it's kind of unprecedented as well. I mean, I worked with 3 different head coaches. I was on 3 different staffs. That doesn't happen a lot, in this day and age. And so um, I think that's something. But just to be able to, um, maintain, the consistency in the business, and hopefully was able to do it the right way. Um, I always say if something should happen to me and I'm out and I'm done, I would want people to say, yo, man, JB was he was a good dude, man. Great dude. Nothing to do with the basketball part, but he was consistent. Whenever you saw him, he was the same way, treated people the right way, respected people, no matter who it was. And so that, to me, that's a accomplishment in itself. If I can achieve that, that's an accomplishment for me. And to me, that goes a long way.
Well, you are a great dude, so I can tell you that. And that's from just experience, whether to pick up the phone anytime to call you, and, ask questions or whatever, or just see you out. I mean, that's enough. And a lot of guys in this business aren't that way, or they're not genuine or sincere. But I can truly say that about you. That's the one thing about you, and you go about your craft, like I said, the right way as a professional.
Appreciate that. Appreciate it.
And this is kind of interesting. Like, a lot of people, it gets stunned with the question, but what movie or TV show title best describes your week?
Well, this is going to be probably cliche-ish, but and it's not because of the reason you think. I'm going to say SportsCenter. And the reason why, because SportsCenter just runs consistently, right? It kind of never ends. It comes on whatever, 10 to whatever, it comes on again at night, comes on again later that night. It's consistent. Well, that's kind of how my mind is during the week. It never shuts down. It's consistent. I'm always going, always thinking, what do I got to do next? What's up? Who I got to call? Who I got to text? Whatever. So SportsCenter is endless, and that's kind of how my mind works, especially during the week. Now, on the weekends, I chill. I chill a little bit. That's kind of like my time to just exhale and do what I like to do, watch my shows, whatever. But during the week, I would say that's what I would say.
That's a great answer, and I like the continuous. That is so true. You kind of touched on this earlier, and you might come up with something else, but what's your favorite word or phrase?
Like I said, I have a lot of them, man. Being around Coach Prosser, he was the king of them, with his sayings, and, we called them Prosserisms back in the day. But the thing that I like for myself that's consistent is, you can't go wrong by doing the right thing. And that's kind of been the mantra for me for my life. And I've carried it over to the coaching as well. And so you just can't. I mean, there's so many, roadblocks and so many temptations out there to go the other way, to take that left and do something you really shouldn't be doing. But it's hard to stay, but if you just do the right thing, whether it's in recruiting, whether it's by a recruit, you might lose a recruit here or there, what you say, it doesn't matter what, that kind of thing. But as long as you did the right thing by the kid, your kids, your players, everybody that you're associated with, then at the end of the day, you can look in the mirror, you can sleep like a baby. So, that's one of my favorite ones right there. You can't go wrong. You can't ever go wrong doing the right thing.
Great nugget right there. Great nugget. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Be who you are. Be authentic. Don't be phony. Don't be fake. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Even though you might have a lot of respect for that person, be who you are. Do it your way. I think people respect that. And, young people today, they see through phoniness. You can't BS kids these days. And so I try to be consistent with my message, but also consistent with my actions. And, just be who you are. That at the end of the day, that should be good enough.
True. That is so true. Jeff, in this business, you talked about stress. You talk about, I mean, you could be sitting in the office and something happens and you like, man, I got to get away for a little bit, or, you know, anything could be going on. But like, where is your happy place?
Probably my couch. My couch. I mean, I just like chilling. I like just, you know, doing nothing sometimes is doing a lot for me. You know, I just like to just vent on my couch. Sometimes I'll have the TV on, sometimes I won't. But sometimes I just sit there and I think, think about my day or what's going on in the world. Because sometimes when you sit and you got other things going on, your mind is going all over the place too. Sometimes you just need to shut down and just dial into what you need to think about. And so I found that to be, really, really good for me at times, especially in this business, in this profession. It's so up and down. You could win 2 games and 2 or 3 in a row, and everybody's patting you on the back, man. Boom, 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 boom. Now you lose 3 or 4. Now you stink. You go to the store, people looking at you sideways. What's up, coach? So sometimes you just need to just go, nah. Let me get to my couch, figure this thing out, and then keep it moving from there.
Great answer right there. I'm with you. I can sit on my couch and relax as well. I know, like you said it earlier, most of us in this business, a lot of us. Now, I tell you what, it's gotten a little bit different later on. Guys have become self-promoters a little bit. You're not one of them. Surely, I mean, there's a lot of guys that I know that's not. But if you had to choose 3 adjectives that describe yourself, which would you choose?
Well, I alluded to this early on when we first got on. I'm extremely, extremely organized. So that would be one. Organized. I'm pretty funny. So I got a pretty funny sense of humor, which people don't know until they actually get around me and we get to talking and kicking it. And then the third thing is I would say humble, extremely humble. So, I would say those 3 things right there, organized, funny sense of humor, and then at the end of the day, humble, just staying humble. Those 3 things there are 3 things that I could think of. Now, people that know me, yourself, whoever might think something different. But if you want to ask me what I think those 3 things kind of sum me up there a little bit.
And then how has coaching affected your life?
It's affected my life in a positive way because it's allowed me to go places and travel places and see places that I know I never would have seen if I wasn't, in the coaching profession. But the main thing that it's done for me, it's allowed me to meet people like yourself, people that have come into my life, all the people that I've worked with. You mentioned all the coaches, Coach Prosser, Coach Cooley, Coach Jones at Delaware State, Dino, Coach Gaudio, Coach Pizdelic. All these guys kind of molded me and shaped me and helped me keep me on task and keep me on the right path to become the person I am today. So I'm really blessed, about that. And none of these people would be in my life if it wasn't for basketball.
Awesome. Now I'm gonna ask you this. I love ending the show with this last question, and I always say, like, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your young self to prepare for as an assistant coach?
Just prepare to be the total assistant coach. And what I mean by that is, you don't ever want to be shortchanged or shortchange yourself and be labeled into one category. That was the first thing I remember. I'll never forget when I first met with Coach Prosser to talk about joining his staff, and he didn't know me at all. We had met through a mutual friend, and the thing he said to me was, he says, I want a coach. I want a basketball coach. I don't want just a recruiter. I don't want, just a player development type guy. I want a basketball coach. And so when he said that to me, that was music to my ears because I knew I was going to be able to grow. I knew I was going to be able to do all the things that were required to be a great assistant. And I knew he was going to allow me to coach. And so that's the one thing that I would say to advice to young assistants or guys that are getting in is not be careful not to get yourself pigeonholed. That advice, I always talk to guys about that, because when these jobs come open or whatever, you want to be able to show that you're marketable, that you can handle any responsibility that's thrown in front of you.
All right. Well, thank you again, Jeff, for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Anything you want to leave the viewers with?
No, man, like I said, I appreciate it. This was great, man. This was fun. I enjoyed it. You can't even tell how long we've been talking. I could do this for another hour if we needed to, but it's always good, man, to share. And, hopefully people will watch this and benefit something from it, get something out of it. Because like I said earlier, that's the mission, is to share and develop other coaches that are coming along. And, it's funny because now I'm considered like an old head or OG now in coaching. And I never thought of myself that way, but it is what it is. But, I'm trying to stay hanging there with these young guys and continue to be successful, continue to develop young men. But I appreciate your time today and appreciate you having me.
All right. Thank you again, man. And thank you, viewers, for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guest as we get them unmasked. See you next time and stay safe.